Say and spell your last name.
Buntrock, Buntrock.
Okay, what address, not what, where did you spend it? Where were you during the storm? What area then?
I wrote it out with the at the Great White Grill with the owner of the Great White Grill, who's a good buddy of mine.
Okay. What did you experience, Dean, during Ian?
Well, I've lived here for 51 years, so I've been through, on Sanibel since '72, and we've been through a share of storms, and I've been a smart person, and I've gotten off the island during every storm that was big enough for me to get worried and go. But I think what happened to all us longtime locals, we got the boy who cried wolf syndrome definitely happened, and this time I said, you know what, it's such a hassle when you leave, you can't come back to the island for a while. And I said, this one, I just for some reason I'm gonna ride it out. And it turned out to be the dumbest decision ever, but in hindsight, it was one of the best, most interesting emotional experiences of my life. And to get to live on the island for 5 days afterwards, basically at the Great White Grill, helping people. We were able to salvage grills from the pieces of property around us, and got charcoal in the breach that was Bailey's, and dried it out in the sun and just started surviving. I did have a childhood dream because I've read every book on the history of Sanibel, and it sounded so enchanting to live here before the causeway. And I got my 5-day wish of that, and about 3 days into it, I said, I don't know about this decision. So, but the storm, I'll tell you what, I left my house. I lived on Main Street, right behind Billy's Bikes. I knew, that I had made the dumb decision to stay. So at about 9 o'clock that morning of the storm of Wednesday, I called John up, who I already had spoken to the day before, and I said, I think my house is going to be in trouble if we get a storm surge. So he goes, well, I'm riding out at my restaurant. You can come on up here. And so I said, good deal. So I called him up. I said, I'm on my way. So I've got a video of Periwinkle. It's probably one of the last, videos with the trees hitting my car, branches, and going up to the Great White. And got there at about, close to 10. And it wasn't any big thing for a while until about an hour later with power gone and the wind starting. And then the notice we got that the lighthouse end was being breached and there was water coming over it. And John said to me, what do you think? And I said, that means it's storm surge. That means it's coming this way. And sure enough, not more than 30 minutes later, we saw the first wave of water coming down Palmeridge Road. And then it just started building and building and building. And next thing you know, there's a river of water flowing down Palmeridge going up towards Sanibel Captiva Road. And it kind of paralleled the streets. So the water rose up to the deck of the Great White Grill, started rising up above to get inside the windows, but they were floor to ceiling windows, and they held. A little bit of leakage around the doors. So we thought we were going to get away with it, and we didn't think we were going to have to go up to the second floor, and eventually we couldn't, because if we opened up the door, the floodwater would come in. Well, what got us eventually was Tarpon Bay, which is basically right behind us there. It came in the back doors, which are just wooden, and it seeped through those like you know. So we only had about 3 inches of water in the restaurant. But while we're watching it, the entire island just disappeared before our eyes, and it was waterfront property. I've got video of John and I talking, looking out over the whole island covered with water, and John goes, well, the value of my restaurant just went up. I've got a waterfront restaurant, and it's for sale. Anybody want it, I'll give them a pretty good deal, but it's higher priced. We had some fun with that. Those 4 days after the storm was just finding the other survivors, checking out our homes, stealing bikes from Billy's and riding them until the tires popped. I did a wellness check on an elderly guy that I have driven on the island for a few years. He became a good buddy, and his daughter told me or asked me, somehow she got through on the non-existent phones. And the daughter asked me to go check them, and so I got down Cassiavell Road that first day. Big mistake, because it was like ice. The muck was so slick. And some lady said, do not, go down Cassiavell. And I said, why? She said, you're going to go down. Well, she was right. So yeah, I went down a couple times and, bleeding, and I still got scars from it. But checked on him. He was in the house, too afraid to answer the door because he thought it might be the cops coming to get him, and he was going to stay on Sanibel no matter what. So he never answered the door. So I did my wellness check, but I didn't do a good enough job. Didn't rouse him. They got him off a couple days later. And then it was just the community found us. The locals heard, hey, the Great White, they're kind of the place to be at night, because we had a whole restaurant full of beer, and the food we had to cook off on the makeshift grills. And so everybody got there about close to sundown, and we just had a local gathering on the porch, just watching the world go by. So helicopters rescue going on for days. When the sewers finally backed up, I asked my buddy John, I said, well, how are we gonna go? And he goes, have you ever learned how to crap in a bucket, young man? And I said, no, you're gonna have to explain that to me. So it's not such a bad thing, except after a couple more days of that, I said, yeah, causeway being gone, not as good as I thought.
How'd you end up leaving there?
Got evacuated from the causeway by the fire department. They had it all. The evacuation teams were really well put together by that fifth day, and so they were communicating with us. They left us local guys alone. They knew we were doing a pretty good service and helping people, and so all the police officers from the other jurisdictions would come up and get really mad at us for staying, and then we would say, well, wait a sec, we're island residents. What can we do to help you? And they're like, oh, good. We don't know where the hell we are. Okay, what's this road? We got to do a wellness check. I'm like, okay, here's how you get there. Because, no signs, no nothing. But, yeah, there was no anything. Phone service was about midnight. You went out to your certain spot on the road. I had one on Palm Ridge Road that worked for mine. John's was another spot. It's just weird how our phones worked at certain times in certain areas.
Yes.
But, yeah.
Any words of wisdom?
I do now. I understand and fear storm surge. It's real. Don't mess with it. When you got a slow-moving storm like that, opposite of Charlie, which is just moving so fast that there's no storm surge that could build up, and Irma just took a turn for the good. But this was the worst-case scenario of the dirty side of the storm sitting on us for that long. Dumb move. So get away before the storm surge. All I would have saved, because I lost everything, everything I own, my 50 years of photographs, every single thing, I would have saved my car. That was the only thing had I gone off, because I would have gone to my brother's where I usually evacuated back in the smart days. So, but basically leave the island if there's going to be a storm surge and the storm looks menacing like that one. Don't be a dummy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Nice to meet you, Ken.
All right.
Yeah. Ah, June.
Get your microphone.
Oh, yeah, no.